Today, we're looking back at one of the most controversial events of World War II. Between February 13th and 15th, 1945, the historic German city of Dresden was subjected to a series of massive air raids by British and American bombers. In just 3 days, this beautiful city, often called the Florence on the Elbe, was reduced to a smoldering ruin. The firebombing of Dresden has since become a symbol of the devastating power of aerial warfare and has sparked a debate that continues to this day. Was it a military necessity or an unforgivable atrocity? To understand what happened, we need to go back to the final months of the war in Europe. The Allied forces were closing in on Germany from both the east and the west. The Soviet Red Army was advancing rapidly, and the Western Allies were pushing through France and the Low Countries. The strategic bombing campaign against Germany had been raging for years, with the goal of crippling its war industry and breaking the morale of its people. Dresden, until then, had been largely spared from major attacks. It was a city renowned for its stunning Baroque architecture, its art collections, and its cultural heritage. It was also a city swollen with refugees. Tens of thousands of civilians fleeing the advancing Soviet front in the east had sought shelter there, believing it to be a safe haven. Official population figures were around 630,000, but with the influx of refugees, the actual number of people in the city was likely much higher, perhaps over 1 million. So why was Dresden targeted? The official Allied justification was that Dresden was a major industrial and transportation hub. It had factories producing military equipment and was a key railway center, vital for moving German troops to the Eastern Front to fight the Soviets. By disrupting these communications, the Allies hoped to hasten the end of the war and support the Soviet advance. This was agreed upon at the Yalta Conference, where the Allies coordinated their final push against Nazi Germany. The plan was to bomb key cities in eastern Germany, including Berlin, Leipzig, and Dresden. To create confusion and hamper German troop movements, the attack began on the night of February 13th. The first wave consisted of Britain's Royal Air Force. They dropped a mix of high-explosive bombs and incendiary devices. The high-explosive bombs were designed to blow the roofs off buildings, tear open windows, and expose the wooden structures inside. Then came the incendiaries, thousands of them. These small, thermite-based bombs ignited everything they touched, creating countless individual fires. But the real horror was yet to come. The initial fires began to merge, feeding off each other. The immense heat generated by these combined blazes created a phenomenon known as a firestorm. The superheated air rose rapidly, creating a powerful updraft that sucked in oxygen from the surrounding areas at hurricane-force speeds. This created a literal vortex of fire, with temperatures reaching over 1,500 degrees Celsius, or 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit. The winds were so strong they could pull people off their feet and suck them into the flames. The air itself became poison as oxygen was consumed by the fire, leaving those huddled in cellars to suffocate. Asphalt in the streets melted, trapping those who tried to flee. The next day, February 14th, the USA's Air Force followed up with 2 more raids in broad daylight. There'd be 17 bombers targeted the city's railway yards. But due to the smoke and chaos from the previous night, many of their bombs fell on the already devastated city center, adding to the destruction and hampering rescue efforts. The survivors who had made it through the night now faced a new onslaught. The human cost was catastrophic. For decades, the exact number of casualties has been a subject of intense debate. Initial estimates, some fueled by Nazi propaganda, went as high as 500,000. The physical destruction was almost total. An area of over 1,600 acres in the city center was completely wiped out. Historic landmarks like the Frau Kirche, the Semperper Opera House, and the Zimper Palace were left as charred shells. Dresden, a jewel of European culture, was gone. One survivor, Kurt Vonnegut, an American prisoner of war who was being held in the city, later described the experience in his famous novel Slaughterhouse-Five. He wrote that the city looked like the surface of the moon. In the aftermath, the controversy began almost immediately. Was the bombing of Dresden a justifiable act of war? Proponents argued that it was. They point to Dresden's role as a communications and industrial center, however modest. They argue that in a total war, the distinction between civilian and military targets becomes blurred, and that crippling an enemy's infrastructure and morale is a legitimate military objective. They also point out that the Germans had carried out their own brutal bombing campaigns, like the Blitz against London and Coventry. From this perspective, Dresden was simply receiving the same treatment it had dished out. However, critics, including many prominent figures at the time, like Winston Churchill himself, who later expressed doubts, saw it differently. They argue that by February 1945, Germany was already on the brink of defeat. The war was practically won. The destruction of Dresden, they contend, had little to no impact on the final outcome of the war. They see the bombing as an act of terror, deliberately targeting a civilian population to cause maximum death and destruction. The use of incendiary bombs and the creation of a firestorm, they say, was designed specifically to kill as many people as possible. They argue it was disproportionate, unnecessary, and morally indefensible a war crime. This debate highlights a fundamental question about the ethics of modern warfare. Where do we draw the line? Is it ever acceptable to target civilians to achieve a military goal? The firebombing of Dresden was not an isolated event. Similar firebombing campaigns were waged against other German cities like Hamburg and, even more devastatingly, against Japanese cities like Tokyo, where a single raid killed an estimated 100,000 people. These events force us to confront the darkest aspects of the Second World War. After the war, the ruins of Dresden became a powerful symbol. During the Cold War, East Germany, under Soviet influence, used the memory of the bombing as anti-Western propaganda, portraying the Allies as ruthless destroyers. In the West, the story was often downplayed, seen as an uncomfortable chapter in an otherwise good war. But the people of Dresden never forgot. For decades, they lived among the ruins. The reconstruction has been a monumental task, spanning generations. In a remarkable symbol of reconciliation, the Frauenkirche, the Church of Our Lady, was painstakingly rebuilt using original stones salvaged from the rubble, supplemented with new ones. It was reconsecrated in 2005, with funding and support coming from all over the world, including from Britain. Today it stands again as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a powerful plea for peace and reconciliation. The anniversary of the Dresden firebombing is a solemn reminder of the horrific cost of war. It challenges us to look beyond simple narratives of good versus evil and to grapple with the complex moral ambiguities of history. It reminds us that in war, the first casualty is often innocence, and that the lines between victor and vanquished, hero and perpetrator, can sometimes become tragically blurred. As we remember the tens of thousands who perished in the flames of Dresden, we are reminded of the urgent, timeless need to strive for a world where such horrors are never repeated. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please consider liking and subscribing for more deep dives into history's most significant events. See you next time.